And welcome to episode 94 of the Liberator podcast. We got the whole crew here today. Sam Riley, T. Russell Hunter, I'm James Silberman, and we are back here in the studio.
Norman, Thank Oklahoma.
God. Yeah.
We were in Louisiana. We were in Norman, then we went to Louisiana, and we came back really quick. And it wasn't very pleasurable.
Yeah. Drove till 7 in the morning. Wonderful.
Yeah,
heard dinosaur theories and things like that. I mean, keep dropping that dinosaur theories. That
I slept through it again.
I did eat shrimp twice in like a 24-hour period, which
it gets you thinking about dinosaurs.
Thank you, Jesus. That I ate shrimp twice, and
well, shrimp are evolved from dinosaurs or something like that. Is that the connection?
No.
In any case,
people are confused.
We went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to help organize a rally for the Abolition of Abortion in Louisiana Act and be there for the hearing, the historic hearing, the first ever floor hearing for a bill to completely abolish abortion. This bill made it out of committee easily. Yep. There was not a single Republican who voted against this bill in committee. Even the independent, who's the chairman of the committee, voted this bill through committee. There was no opposition. It was going through without any hitches. The only opposition was from pro-aborts, who did their usual thing in the committee and talked about, oh, you all hate women and all that stuff.
And in Louisiana, pro-aborts have no power.
Right. So
just like in Oklahoma.
So it didn't matter that the pro-aborts came out and opposed the bill because the Republicans sent it through easily anyway.
Yeah, and this naturally excited us because there's never been a bill of abolition to go through committee to a House floor vote. So we naturally said, oh, we've got to be there. We got to do whatever we can to let everybody know what's going on. This is a historic event. Yep. We've got the first House vote for a bill of abolition.
Yeah.
Cancel everything and get to Louisiana.
Yep. And by the time that we had arrived, and we're going to get into more of the details of all of this, but just to give you guys an overview, if you haven't heard already, it was not the same Republican politicians that we watched in that committee hearing. Yep. By the time that we got to Louisiana and there was a floor hearing, everything had changed. The Republican politicians had changed their tune in some very, very drastic ways. And a guy who literally in committee, when he was asked to vote, you usually say yes or no. Like those are your options. Yep. But this one guy by the name of Alan Seabaugh said, absolutely, enthusiastically, let's pass this bill. Let's abolish abortion immediately. But then the bill gets to the floor, and he's the one arguing against it, arguing to remove all of the language from the bill and replace it with some more pro-life garbage.
What happened?
Something happened.
What happened?
You know, and this is not a, we keep it light sometimes here, but this is not a happy episode.
We're going to progressively get angrier and angrier.
This is a pretty heavy episode, and we would like to say that, it's, sometimes some people might say they're backstabbing cowards or something like that. They're snakes or wolves or whatever. But to be honest, these are just pro-lifers doing what pro-lifers do.
Yeah.
The pro-life organizations came out. They said, this is what the pro-life movement has always wanted. And they flip because they didn't know. They thought they were going to get a pat on the back. They thought they were going to get awards for this bill. And when they found out that wasn't going to happen, gone. They're not with us anymore.
Very reminiscent of back whenever Donald Trump was first running and someone said, so should there be punishment for mothers who murder their babies? I don't think they said it that way. Like for women who abort their babies. And he was like, well, yeah, sure. Why not? Because Donald Trump, for all his issues, isn't a complete idiot. And so he's like, yeah, of course. Murdering babies, that's the position of my party. They should be punished. And then, within 24 hours, Donald Trump, who never goes back on things he says, has to go back on what he said. Why? Well, the pro-life movement, pro-life industry, the pro-life establishment, whatever you want to call
pro-life
it.
Gen.
The pro-life generation, that we are the generation that will abolish abortion. Those people contacted him and said,
we don't want it abolished.
Well, they said, well, it's not our position. We don't believe that mothers should be punished.
Yeah.
So like natural, normal people who think abortion's bad, we're trying to do something about it, would go that direction. Mm-hmm. And that's what, as you said, Alan Seabaugh did. Yeah. Like, absolutely, let's criminalize abortion in Louisiana. and then, everyone gets excited and drives to town. Oh, but immediately the Louisiana Right to Life and then subsequent groups step in to say, as Sam says, that's not the pro-life position.
Yeah.
And we agree with them, just to be clear. That isn't the abolishing abortion absolutely is not the pro-life position. So let's get into it.
So this bill passed 7-2 out of committee, right? Not a single Republican voted against it. Even the independent chairman of the committee voted to put this thing
And no
through
objections
committee.
were brought up.
No objections from a Republican. This thing was, it sailed through. There were some pro-aborts, of course, opposing it, but their opinion didn't matter because it's a Republican, conservative, pro-life state.
Yep.
So their opposition did not matter. So this bill passes easily. We talked to Pastor Brian Gunter, who's kind of leading the charge there in Louisiana, and he said we had a veto-proof majority in the House on this bill. All the Republicans were supporting it. But then something happened. Louisiana Right to Life and Louisiana Family Focus came out against the bill. So let's talk about, in this episode, we're going to talk about, real quick, we're going to go through the Louisiana Right to Life statement, Louisiana Family Focus's statement, the statement made by 70 of America's leading pro-life organizations that they put out the day of the vote. And then we're going to play Alan Seabaugh's testimony that he gave against the bill. And we're just going to kind of respond to all of this nonsense. And with that, let's begin with Louisiana Right to Life. So they write, Louisiana Right to Life has always protected both babies and mothers from the violence and exploitation of abortion. Our long-standing policy is that abortion-vulnerable women should not be treated as criminals. Well, of course, abortion-vulnerable women wouldn't be treated as criminals. We're not saying, oh, did you consider abortion? Okay, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's the act of murdering children.
Yeah,
that's
not the
being
act of
made.
being attempted to murder children by abortion providers.
Right. We're criminalizing the act of murdering a preborn child.
Yeah.
We're giving equal protection to preborn children.
Which requires malice and forethought.
The rhetoric here is always incredible to me. Abortion vulnerable women. It's like
Women.
pedophile vulnerable men, or like rapist vulnerable men, or something like that. Vulnerable is not the word that you should be using about people seeking abortion. This whole victim narrative that they have going on, constantly reinforcing this idea that every woman who goes into an abortion clinic is vulnerable and needy and they are the victim. No, they're not. If you stand in front of an abortion facility, you watch them go in there killing their babies, they'll yell at you about how they're killing their babies and they want to murder them, and they're going to come back next month with another one. It's something I've heard before.
Put on a t-shirt.
They are not victims.
Everyone knows I've had an abortion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're not victims.
Yeah, we're going to get back into it, but I do want to say that the way we generally bring this up and make this point, pro-lifers, when we say these things, we're not saying that pro-lifers are for abortion. We're not. We're saying they're what they say they're against abortion, and they're also for mothers who abort their babies at the same time. Mm-hmm. They don't like abortions happening, but when mothers abort their babies, they're for protecting the mothers. That is their position. Mm-hmm. And Louisiana Right to Life, when they came in and they said this, they were not saying anything out of left field or anything like that. They were stating what has long been the pro-life position, both babies and mothers. They're trying to protect both babies and mothers from the violence and exploitation of abortion. And they went on, they said, we should hold accountable the individuals performing the abortion or selling or providing the chemical abortion drugs. Mm-hmm. HB 813, the Abolition of Abortion in Louisiana Act, is not consistent with this policy of Louisiana Right to Life.
Yeah.
An important note on this issue of whether or not the mother should get any penalty for having an abortion is that if the mother is immune, if we put into the law, nothing in this act shall be construed to allow the prosecution of the mother. If we have that, there's no way to abolish abortion. If you have that, what you are saying is, in essence, the mother has the right to murder her child with impunity. Yeah. So the idea that we can get rid of abortion, we can end abortion, we can do whatever, we can succeed in this battle, while the mom's still being immune from prosecution, it is absurd.
Well, they'll say that they want to make it unthinkable.
Yeah.
While also telling them this.
Well, one point to what you were saying, and then another point to what you were saying. So, with the pro-life movement having this goal, you would always, as a pro-lifer, I'd always hear people say, I'm personally pro-life, that kind of thing. They would sort of have the moral opinion, I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm not going to stop somebody else from doing it. In a lot of ways, that view is sort of embedded in the pro-life movement, regardless of whether they recognize it or not. When they look at states, they think, oh, Dobbs v. Jackson, the state should have the right to choose whether or not they're a pro-life state or a pro-abortion state. They have this sort of personally pro-life view. If you have a majority opinion, that means, yep, you can say people have rights. If you don't have a majority opinion, you can say, nope, people don't have rights. So they have that kind of very morally relativistic view where as long as the things shift towards us, as long as people have this opinion, then we can establish rights and we can say that people have inalienable rights somehow, even though it's internally inconsistent with that. So it's not even within the pro-life view. They have that sort of personally pro-life view. And it's not even so like even a mother, they think a mother can go and choose for herself to kill her baby.
At basis,
they just don't think that an abortionist should be able to assist.
Yeah, it is at its base still a pro-choice view.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still like a choice. Like, so the pro-life movement, even outside of the legal stuff, has always been sort of like choose life. Like, we recognize that there's abortion and there's not abortion. We want you to choose life. And in here, what we've seen increasingly in the last couple of years as bills of abolition are put forward, it's kind of like they can't imagine what it would be like to take away that choice and say that choosing to do that's murder. And if you do it, you're going to get in trouble. It's like it almost can't penetrate the propaganda that they've been telling everyone for the past 50 years. And so I think that's what's kind of getting sort of like exposed by this, because we're not, sometimes people I think that we're misrepresenting pro-lifers.
Yeah.
But they're having to come out and say it more clearly now.
Yeah, they're saying everything that we've been saying about pro-lifers and their positions is being sort of blatantly stated by the pro-life organization leaders, and not just like some of them, like all of them.
And I think it was interesting you were talking about how it just hasn't penetrated the propaganda they've been telling. And I think originally this whole thing about how we should never penalize the mom, I think that is a result of the political calculation that they said, well, in order to get the culture or the moderates or whoever on our side, this is what we have to say.
So we don't look crazy or something.
Right. For political reasons, we have to say this. We don't actually believe it, but because it's absurd, but for political reasons, this is what we'll go with for now. But then you go with that for political reasons. You make that compromise for political reasons for long enough, and eventually you just internalize it.
Yeah.
And so now it's not even a political calculation that they're making. Like, okay, we wouldn't be able to pass a bill criminalizing the act of abortion, including everyone who takes part in it. It's actually, no, we actually think that's wrong now. They've internalized their own propaganda that is dehumanizing, that does allow for abortion.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with now. So that was Louisiana Right to Life's primary opposition to this bill, was this idea that it makes possible prosecution of the mother who murders her own child. But they also went on, they said, additionally, Louisiana law, through our 2006 Human Life Protection Act, is clear that babies will be protected from the violence of abortion when Roe v. Wade is overturned. Louisiana does not need HB 813 to protect babies from abortion. So this is the other big objection that pro-life groups always raise. The Supreme Court has said, and so we can't abolish abortion until the Supreme Court gives us permission to uphold the right to life. We can't obey God, or we can't uphold the Constitution.
They put their eggs in that basket. 2006, they passed this thing.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be protecting children. They've probably talked about how it's called the Human Life Protection Act, and it's been around since 2006. And they're saying, we're not protecting babies here until the Supreme Court gives us the right.
Yeah.
It's really sick when you think about it. 2000, I don't even want to do the calculation. 2006 to 2022, how many babies they've chosen not to protect because they've decided that they're going to agree with the Supreme Court that murder is in the Constitution at the moment.
Yeah.
And here we are on the precipice of a possible repeal of Roe v. Wade, and in that opinion that's repealing it, it says it's unconstitutional. So we've got a state submitting to an unconstitutional decree that they should have been challenging since 2006, but they're being very prideful and saying, yet again, we don't need HB 813. We don't need to immediately start protecting babies right now. We've already been waiting since 2006. We might as well wait the rest of the year.
Yeah. It makes your blood boil. You see nearly 2 decades of this law, this trigger law, right? Being put on the books, and they're just waiting. Like we're going to do it. It's just the Supreme Court has to do it.
Yeah.
It's sick. It's like they're every other lobbying organization knows that they can do things in defiance of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
They know that they can legalize weed. They know that they can do all kinds of stuff.
Make marriage gay.
Yeah. But it's the pro-life lobby that is actually embedded into people the idea that, no, you have to obey the Supreme Court. It's just the pro-life lobby. And when pro-life legislators who normally would vote for nullification bills about anything else, when it comes to abortion,
Not to protect
they're
life.
going to protect it as the sacred cow that the abortion industry
Because the
sees
thing
it
is to protect, we're
Like,
going
no,
to see this.
That's the country's idol. We have to keep it up. We cannot tear it down.
Yeah, the thing they're going to protect is the pro-life movement and the pro-life movement's pathway. But you got to wonder, from what they're saying, have they really not passed any pro-life bills since 2006? Like anytime any kind of pro-life bill came up, did they just go, hey guys, Louisiana does not need whatever House bill or whatever Senate bill this is because we've already got the 2006 human life? No. I mean, this is dismally bad thinking and explanation, but it exposes just how off they are.
Yeah.
Because they're saying we don't need HB 813 because we already have this other thing. HB 813 is superior to that other thing. Then they get right down to it because HB 813 does not exempt women from criminalization and is unnecessary to protect the life of babies from abortion. Louisiana right to life does not support HB 813. So it's the same things. Criminalization and ignoring Roe. Those are the two sticking points that we see everywhere, all across the country.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, we saw it. And I want to be honest, whenever we were driving down, you weren't in the car because you were like, I don't know, missing air flights and stuff from wherever you were at. But we have an intern coming in, Gabriel Sawyer, and he's like, do you think they're going to pass this? And from what I was reading and kind of like interpreting, I was kind of like, I think they may. Like while we were driving down, I was like, even though Louisiana, this was before the 70 had come out, but like Louisiana right to life was saying, we don't like this. But I was kind of thinking, yeah, but Abby Johnson was even getting on there and being like, well, come on. Like, is abortion murder or is it not?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of going on. We could drive down there and see not just the first time a bill passes committee, but we could see it pass the House. Like I was relatively sanguine at the possibility that it was going to be passed.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. The intern was like, he was probably expecting me to be cynical or something. And I was like, no, I don't know, man. I mean, 7-2, the same people, they're going to pass this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the pro-lifers, maybe Louisiana Right to Life doesn't have a big pool is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So other groups got involved.
Yep.
Yeah.
But tragically, Louisiana Right to Life does still have a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And this other group, Louisiana Family Forum.
One more point before we move to that.
Sure.
I almost think this quote right here is just worthy of a drawing. Like we do not need it. We already have a bill that's going to protect them. Like imagine someone just watching Jews carted off to the death and saying, we do not need a law. There will eventually be protection because of this thing we passed.
We got a trigger law.
It's such a perfect example of justice delayed is justice denied. It's like we are going to establish justice just way down the road. Yeah, you 7,000 babies who are dying this year, go ahead and die. You're going to be protected eventually. Don't you worry. It's so sick and cowardly and disgusting, and these people need to be called out.
Yeah.
You should jump on Louisiana Right to Life's Facebook and just give them a terrible review. They did not protect babies. They did not say that we need to protect babies. They said we don't need to protect babies because they're cowards.
We've already made statements about protecting babies. You know, and this actually, there is an analogy here in history. This actually happened when Wilberforce was putting forward legislation. Like this literal thing where like he had called for a total abolition of the slave trade, and they had said at one point in time, it's like, we are going to do that gradually, and here's a date that we're going to do it on. And then like every time he put forward a bill between then and that date, they were like, dude, we've set a date for when we're going to do that. And it was like frustrating. And when that date came there, they were like, well, we can't because like we're fighting the French.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's just delay. It's the game.
And the observation has been made that if a giant set of forceps was about to rip off the limbs of all of the legislators in that room, they would have signed that bill so quickly they would have made the paper burn. This is so despicable what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are not loving them as they love themselves. They are taking them and putting them in a different category than human. They are not believing that they're human. They're being ageist, and they're disgusting, like seriously disgusting. Anyone in that room who was watching that was just, I'm sure, very infuriated by it.
Yeah.
Yep. And they were not alone. Louisiana Right to Life was joined by Louisiana Family Forum, who also came out in opposition to the bill. And they wrote a long email about it, and they start off, as usual, with a bunch of stuff about how pro-life they are. We got the Choose Life license plate, to be a thing in Louisiana.
What do you mean criminalize abortion? We got the Choose Life license plate. We've already protected them.
Right.
We've got really badly drawn yellow license. We did it.
Yeah. So basically, it started by highlighting all their.
I would never hit these people, but I would shake them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So after that, they get into their argument. They say, and I always love it when they do this, like, the enforcement provisions of this bill are overly broad and legally vague. Like this thing, like about how these bills are like sloppily written and stuff. This has become a talking point more for these groups. And it's
ad
like
hominem stuff.
Like Bradley Pierce is a constitutional attorney. He has written laws for all different political issues. He's written laws. He's one of the primary lawyers for like a lot of these Second Amendment groups. Like Bradley Pierce is one of the premier conservative political lawyers in the country. Like the idea that this is sloppily written, it's legally vague. It's absolute nonsense. These people don't know what they're talking about.
It's literally saying the laws against murder should be applied equally to all people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
It's
vague.
it's borrowing from previously written murder code. It's like, oh, is it hard to enforce murder code? We might have a big problem here.
Well,
if this is
often,
sloppily written and enforcement is vague.
It's often the murder code in this state says you're not allowed to murder people except by abortion. Well, let's remove the except by abortion part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Completely not vague, completely unsloppy.
And what's amazing is that next they actually get to exposing that they actually don't know anything they're talking about legally, because their next sentence is HB 813 gives enforcement to authority to the state, which is the duty of the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the state. Mm-hmm. The Attorney General is the one who enforces the law on behalf of the state.
Yeah.
So
fun little tautology there.
Holy crow, as they say.
Yeah, holy crow.
As I say.
This requires a constitutional amendment, not a statute.
Yeah.
They must be for some constitutional amendment project or something that they're working on.
Yeah. So they continues, and this is an incredible argument as well. This bill violates the separation of powers enshrined in both the Louisiana Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. The legislature, he's saying in HB 813, if it were to be passed, the legislature would be instructing judges in how they must rule in a case interpreting a statute. The legislature does not possess jurisdiction to prevent a state court judge from enjoining, staying, overruling, or voiding any provision of the statute or threatening impeachment for simply fulfilling judicial responsibilities. Here, he's objecting to the fact that HB 813 tells the legislature that they can impeach state judges if they violate the right to life.
Yeah.
So here he's saying fulfilling judicial responsibilities, threatening him impeachment for fulfilling judicial responsibilities. So included in Louisiana Family Forum's judicial responsibilities is violating the right to life.
Yeah.
Is striking down abolition.
Making sure you don't uphold the right to life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can really tell when you see this kind of thing that the pro-life movement is majority Catholic, because they look at our system as though they look at their Pope. It's like, oh, they determine what the Constitution means. They determine what the Bible means. When the Bible says this, the Pope says something else, that's what the Bible means. Even if I read it and it's clearly not what it's saying. And so everyone is an interpreter. This was a constitutional republic built by Protestants. It was built by largely Presbyterians.
How dare you?
Every single person in America is a interpreter. Every legislator who swears an oath to uphold the Constitution is an interpreter. They have to be able to interpret the Constitution in order to be able to do their job, and no one can read the Constitution and say, yup, there's abortion. It doesn't make any sense. You would need a constitutional amendment to put abortion in there. The idea that you need to put a constitutional amendment in to change what the Supreme Court said is just absurd, because they can interpret whatever you put up there and say that that's not that's not against abortion. That's actually pro-abortion. That's the standard now. They can do whatever they want. They can look at the 14th Amendment and say the 14th Amendment does not apply to the preborn, and so we're not going to enforce it. It's just completely absurd.
Yeah. It's almost so absurd, I don't even know if we should spend a whole lot of time dealing with it. I mean, Louisiana Family Focus puts a bunch of gobbledygook out here, and it's really designed to make just the average pro-lifer feel okay with the fact that they read a news article saying that there was a bill to totally, immediately, without exception, abolish abortion and protect babies who are in the womb from murder. And all these normal run-of-the-mill Christians in the state were like, woohoo, this is awesome. And Louisiana Family Focus, Louisiana Right to Life, these groups have to oppose it because they know what their view is, and they oppose these things. But they've got to somehow make people think that it was right.
Even if that means literally protecting judges who violate the right to life by saying they're just doing their judicial responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like, that's the degree to which, and it's Family Forum.
Yeah.
I wrote it wrong on here. It's Louisiana Family Forum, actually.
Yeah. It's literally the thing that court judges can get impeached for.
Yeah.
By putting themselves above the law.
Well, it shows how much they've actually succeeded. The pro-life movement and the pro-choice movement have succeeded in altering the way that our system works. Because here's a bill saying, here's the way the system works. This is what you're supposed to do. So do this. And they're looking at it as to the judicial supremacist eyes and saying, oh, wait, no, this is not the way the system works. We have to obey the Supreme Court no matter what. So when you treat the system the way that the system was designed to work, it's actually a radical idea now, because the pro-lifers, by their submission and by their lack of fight and by their cowardice, have changed the system in the minds of so many people. People actually believe that that's the way that our system is supposed to function. They actually believe that the Supreme Court is supposed to be able to pass down these edicts that affect everything, even though the Constitution does not agree with them. That's how much the pro-life movement has done damage to the actual structure of our system.
Yep, and they demonstrate that in their next sentence of the email, where they say it violates, HB 813, violates the supremacy of the U.S. statutes and U.S. federal court decisions under the U.S. Constitution.
This challenges Roe v. Wade.
So what they're saying is, we're going against the U.S. Constitution by trying to abolish abortion immediately, or by abolishing abortion immediately. But what they get, again, as you said, they're substituting the Constitution for the court's opinion. So they think that the court's opinion literally is the Constitution. So if we're going against the court's opinion, we are going against the Constitution. But it's like, no, this bill is what is upholding what is clearly in the Constitution. They are violating the Constitution by saying that we have to allow abortion, we have to allow the murder of children in Louisiana. Yeah. That's what violates the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, but it's really crazy how they've twisted that.
And how and bills like HB 813 are designed to point this out and change it. Yeah. So the ending of that little paragraph: while we wholeheartedly disagree with the ruling in Roe, HB 813 is not a workable solution.
Yeah. Like, so they can interpret now.
Yeah, yeah. The translation is: while we wholeheartedly disagree with the ruling in Roe, challenging that ruling is not a workable solution.
And on what
voting
basis?
For pro-lifers who appoint pro-life judges who will change it without challenging it, that's that's the path.
Yeah. On what basis can they actually say that they disagree with the Roe ruling? It's like, that's the Constitution. You disagree with the Constitution then. If they've decided and what they say is Constitution, then it is the Constitution. And they're disagreeing with the Constitution.
Until they change their mind and it's no longer the Constitution.
Right, right. And so it's such an absurdity that if the court says that this is what's constitutional and then they change their mind, suddenly that is what's constitutional.
Yeah.
It's like, do you guys think the document itself changes because the court changes their opinion on it?
All right.
It doesn't. The words are the same. Nothing has changed. They've issued a different opinion. Their first opinion was wrong because, yes, you can see it's an incorrect opinion. Their second opinion, correcting it if they were to outlaw abortion entirely, would be correct. But that doesn't change the Constitution at all. It just means that they're correctly interpreting now as opposed to not
finally interpreting it correctly.
Yeah.
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 So we should move on, man. There's Louisiana Family Focus does not deserve this much of our time.
Yep.
Yeah,
but they do say the Louisiana law protects babies from abortion when Roe v. Wade is overturned through our 2006 Human Life Protection Act. So the same thing. Mm-hmm. Taking a lot of pride in the fact that back in 2006, they passed a trigger law.
Yep. And then they end with, so they tell the trigger law and then they end with, as Louisiana Right to Life said, the tragedy of abortion isn't limited to the unborn child who loses her life. The mother who aborts her child also suffers devastating physical and psychological damage following an abortion. Now, that may very well be true, because that is what sin does to you.
Yeah. Murdering people's not generally good for your psychology.
Right. Not good for your psychology. It damages your soul, damages everything. But that doesn't mean murder should be legal. It doesn't mean murderers should be let off the hook. Yeah. And so the fact that, yes, there are women who do, yes, when you murder your own child, you're not going to be super well most of the time, or a lot of the time, or at least some of the time after you do that.
Yeah.
So that has no bearing on whether or not it should be illegal or you should face prosecution for doing it.
Well, what's happening here is that the mother's conscience is telling her that she deserves justice. Like, it is her conscience crying out to her saying, I deserve justice. I deserve to be punished.
I know what I did.
That's what it is. Like, you can have these radical pro-abortion activists who will go around shouting their abortion, stuff like that. I've talked to a lot of them, and you can see how quickly the guilt starts to set in when you talk to them honestly. When you say, look, you're screaming right now about murdering your baby. You murdered your baby. Yeah. Why are you happy about that? Why do you rejoice in killing your baby? And I've had very angry pro-abortion activists, like, their demeanor drop and then, like, start crying.
Break down.
And it wasn't because
the good news.
It wasn't because and then you share the gospel with them, but it wasn't because what I said was mean or offensive or whatever. It's because what I said was true, and that spoke directly to their heart, and they knew it. Like, they knew that was the case. They're overcompensating by their celebrations of killing their baby. Yeah. They're going out and partying because they're trying to shut up their conscience. And yes, this is a result of killing your baby. When you feel self-hatred and anger and psychological damage, is because you know God's justice is hanging over you. And you either are saved by Christ or you're going to bear the penalty for it. And they're, in their own conscience, it's telling them, you deserve justice. Yeah. And you deserve to be punished.
And the other part of this, outside of all of that, is just there's a equating of abortion is hurting babies and mothers equally. Like, there's like this idea that abortion is attacking babies and attacking mothers, and not because they're not just saying these mothers are suffering some kind of need for Christ. That's clearly not what they're saying. They think that our culture is perpetuating an attack on women through abortion. Yeah, they do not see women as sinning, as being tempted, as doing something. Somehow women don't know what they're doing. They don't know where babies come from. They don't sin. Yeah, they got pregnant, and then this thing happened to them, and it hurt them.
Yeah, this is the This is the irony of the feminists on both sides. You get the pro-life feminists and the pro-abortion feminists. And pro-abortion feminists are arguing for a special right to kill. And pro-life feminists are arguing that women are too stupid to know that killing is wrong. It's like, this is just dumb. Like,
and then talk to actual women who are aborting, and it doesn't match any of this.
Yeah, it's very absurd. If you actually... The best way to have a good view of women is to just not be a feminist. That's what you can do. Just get away from feminism. It's not good. Go in a different direction.
Wow.
There you go.
True. Simple.
Yeah. So these are the Louisiana pro-life groups. So Louisiana Family Forum, Louisiana Right to Life come out against it very quickly after the bill passes committee. But then a few days after that, on the day of the hearing, on the day of the vote on the House floor on the Abolition of Abortion in Louisiana Act, 70 of the nation's, quote unquote, leading pro-life organizations.
I heard the number 74. Is that wrong?
I believe it was 70.
It was 70 plus Denny Burke, Ronnie Rogers, and 2 other guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So they released a statement saying that we do not support any bill, and we will never support any bill that allows any degree of legal penalty for the mother who pays the abortionist to murder her own child, or who takes a pill and on her own murders her own child. Yeah. We oppose any legal penalty whatsoever. And this should be taken as the position of some people are like, you're misrepresenting 70 pro-life organizations. And almost all of the main ones. So you've got National Right to Life, you've got Susan B. Anthony List, you've got March for Life, you've got all Americans United for Life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All the ones that have anything to do with legislation.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't ask for random groups that go on college campuses and tell people to, buy baby socks or cupcakes. They didn't really ask those folks, but all the legislative lobbying organizations of the pro-life establishment.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you had the archdiocese, the Catholic bishops of the U.S.
and the
all
archdiocese
signed on
of
to
the
that.
Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah, and the overlords of the Southern Baptist Convention, the ERLC and the SBC elites, they signed on to that. And in the letter they say we represent millions of pro-life Americans, and they're right about that. And so here's the solution for you pro-lifers when you're thinking about what they did in that letter: stop being pro-life. Like, get out, go to a movement that actually wants a good goal. Because when your name is behind all of these people that represent the pro-life movement, you are adding to their influence, and they can say on their letters, we represent millions of pro-life Americans. So you are adding influence to them.
Or think about it this way.
Take the influence away. Walk away from that movement. Like, I know people that will say things like, yeah, I think police brutality is a problem. But then they're like going along with the BLM stuff. And they don't agree with any of the solutions of the BLM. It's like, well, guess what? Guess who leads that movement? Guess who gets to put in the policy if they succeed? The BLM movement. Like, the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement get to put in the policy if they succeed. So you don't put your name behind that. You put your name behind a different movement that wants better goals. So get out of that movement, get behind this movement. We've got better goals. We've got the goal that we're trying to accomplish, that God would have us accomplish. Don't go along with these people.
Yeah, and it's good to think about it. Like, the pro-life organizations all got together, and they made a document in reference to whether or not to abolish abortion, criminalize abortion, treat abortion as murder. And they made this statement: if you agree with this statement, call yourself pro-life. If you don't agree with this statement, don't call yourself pro-life, because you're helping them.
Yeah, they actually said, I don't think I have this particular quote in here, but they actually said in their open letter from all these groups, they actually said, it is not pro-life to criminalize the mother. I forget the exact wording, but that concept was in there.
And there are people who are not thinking on this subject who want to say at this point, no, these people aren't pro-life. We're pro-life does mean da-da-da-da-da, and challenge these millions upon millions of folks who control the pro-life organization. Stop it. Carry on.
Yeah, so they're emphatically saying all of the pro-life organizations have gotten together.
Because it's true. This is the pro-life position.
This is what pro-life means. And here's the thing. If there weren't lots of pro-lifers who were behind these organizations, then they wouldn't have as much influence as they do. But they have as much influence as they do. They're able to prevent abortion from being abolished in Louisiana because there are lots of people who are supporting these organizations. And so all of those people need to stop supporting these organizations. As Sam said, stop identifying with them, stop supporting them in any way. Come be abolitionists.
Yeah, in mass, pro-lifers aren't, pro-life individuals who aren't a part of organizations aren't rising up and fighting this. It's mainly abolitionists.
Right.
But there are those just pro-life pastors and pro-life just people there are some who are like, wait, but I always thought the pro-life movement was for criminalizing abortion.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you don't sit there and be like, no, I'm going to lead the pro-life movement. Say, oh, the pro-life movement isn't for that. I must not be a part of the pro-life movement. That's the correct response here. Don't try to out pro-life the pro-life movement, because these 70 organizations actually are not lying. They're not saying anything that's false. This has been the position the entire time. You can look at the history of it. And the best way to define a movement or organizations or an establishment or even a label is to say, well, what does it do? What has it done? Mm-hmm. What has it historically always done? It's this. They're not saying anything new. This is their position. Yeah. So let's actually read it. We've been talking about it and bashing it, but let's make sure that we read it for our folks here.
Yep. So they write, these 70 leading pro-life organizations: women are victims of abortion and require our compassion and support, as well as ready access to counseling and social services in the days, weeks, months, and years following an abortion. So is it wrong for there to be counseling for someone who's murdered her children? Well, not necessarily, because people who do this thing need to be brought to Christ. Yeah. And so I hope there's some Christ-centered counseling for those women. But are they victims of abortion? Like, did they look up in the phone book the number of their local Planned Parenthood and go and pay someone to murder their child and go through all that process and not leave at any point along that process, and they ignored the people outside the clinic who were pleading with them not to do it? Did they go through all of that
Did they ignore their conscience? Did they ignore the natural law written on the hearts? Did they ignore? I mean, this sentence would make sense if it were true that pregnant women like woke up and found themselves being dragged out of their houses,
Right.
and an abortionist against their will, killing their baby. They would clearly be victims of abortion.
And a lot of people want to forget Romans 1. Pretty much everywhere they want to forget that Romans 1 exists, whether you're talking about apologetics or whether you're talking about the pro-life movement. But God has written it on the heart. God has revealed himself. He has shown his eternal attributes, his power. He has shown himself, and he shows people murder is wrong. Like they are murderers and they approve of murder. They know that it's wrong. And I've made the observation before on here, but Eve was lied to, and she was told a much better lie than this culture told women who abort their babies. Yeah. She was told something by a talking dragon, right? A talking serpent
dinosaur.
She was told something that you would not see today, and you might believe it if you were told that, but she was held accountable, and the whole human race was held accountable for believing a lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't think that because women have been lied to that's an excuse for people aborting their babies.
But,
and has the pro-life movement done so little too? It's like, have they done no education whatsoever that it's made absolutely no impact on the lies that are told by the pro-abortion movement? Is ridiculous. That really what people are saying? Because if that's the case, I almost agree with them a little bit. Their impact has been very minimal. They have not been saying it's murder. They have not been telling the truth. And so, in a way, because you haven't really combated them.
Well, here we have the opportunity to say it's murder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're choosing not to.
Yeah.
So they are educating people this isn't murder.
Yeah.
And they have been, I think you're right, they've been effective over the past 50 years at making people think abortion is bad, but it's not murder.
Yeah.
And I think the other important point here is that the pro-abortion side really stopped lying about a decade ago.
Yeah.
Like they really weren't. You're not able to argue that it's a clump of cells. You never hear that anymore.
They say, yes, it's a human.
Yes.
That human doesn't have the right to use my body.
Yes.
That's how they argue.
That is the argument now. I have not seen any pro-abortion person argue that it's a clump of cells or it's not a human.
They're wrong, but they're not being disingenuous liars.
I think they'll say it, but it's more of I'm going to insult the person in the womb. Like it's more of a putting a derogatory euphemism on the killing of them. Not so much like I honestly believe that they're just a clump of cells or something like that. It's more of they're just a clump of cells. Like Germans in the Holocaust saying all kinds of terrible things about the Jewish people in order to dehumanize them, in order to put themselves in their own minds, put them a rank below everyone else so that they can justify atrocities done against them. Yeah. It's not like this honest, I actually think they're a clump of cells, type thing.
Yeah.
But they're not denying, like they don't they know that all the embryological textbooks say that life begins at conception.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to grab the abortion's murder quadfold here.
Yep.
We store plug.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we're starving. Bye.
A couple of quotes here. So this is from Sophie Lewis, who's a pro-abortion author. This was an interview about 2 years ago, and she said, "Abortion is a form of killing that we need to be able to defend."
Yeah.
Right. So pro-abortion person fully admitting it's killing. I think she said elsewhere, she may have used human or baby or any number of words like that. But again, fully admitting what it is. And then Lisa Harris, abortionist and University of Michigan professor, she says at a pro-abortion conference, given that we actually see the fetus the same way as those who oppose abortion, and given that we might actually both agree that there's violence in an abortion, let's just give them all it's violence, it's a person, it's killing. Yeah. Let's just give them all that, right? So they're conceding the argument that is a human being, that is a person, that there is violence in the murder of that person.
And this woman, Lisa Harris, she's someone who did an abortion on a 22-week baby while her own baby was 22 weeks in her womb.
Yep.
Like that's the kind of depravity that we're talking about. Yeah. She's feeling a baby kicking her stomach while she's removing the legs of the baby in the womb.
Yeah.
So not even close to being ignorant.
Yeah.
These people they know full well. If you go on social media right now and you type in Twitter #ShoutYourAbortion, you're going to see a litany of vile and disgusting things, and you are going to, if you're actually honest and you're looking at that, you're going to stop believing that they're victims.
Yeah.
You're going to start believing
unless
these people are worse in a lot of ways than the enemies that we face when abolitionists tried to abolish abortion, or in Germany when they killed Jewish people, because guess what? These victims are more innocent and more defenseless than any class of victims have ever been.
Their own mothers.
Yeah, it's their own mothers. Yeah. There's layers and layers of how evil abortion is.
Yeah.
And it truly is, I think, the most despicable thing that someone can do.
And it's just our culture's practice of child sacrifice. So like people will sometimes bring up, well, this has been around forever. Like that makes it okay. You're like, yeah, they used to actually like give birth to the babies and then put them on the heated up hands of a molten like idol. It's like, yeah. But do you think that back when they did that, when they took the baby and they put it on the hands of Moloch and watched it fry, they were like, is it human? No, they weren't confused then. We're not confused now. The pro-life movement just needs to shut their stupid mouth about the whole thing and move on to say, turns out people are really what the Bible says they are.
Yeah.
We are rebellious, wicked, depraved people who kill our children because we love our sin.
Yeah.
Just like the Bible says from the beginning to the end. And that is the basic thing that the pro-life movement denies is going on in the hearts of any women. Because this is categorical. Women are victims of abortion. It's not most are victims or some. It's not like this nuance, like some women are victims. So we need to make sure that when we write our laws, we protect those.
Yeah.
You know why it's not that? Because that's what an abolition bill does.
Yeah.
It does acknowledge the fact that there are women who are coerced. There are women who are forced. And those women would not be treated the same as the woman who is like, you know, dancing, another one bites the dust as she comes in and out of the abortion clinic.
Yeah. And this is the thing that really makes it seem like this is just controlled opposition. It makes it seem like, oh, yeah, they're just being dishonest and they want to keep abortion legal. Like that I'm not saying that's the case, but that's the thing that really makes it seem like it.
Yeah.
When you have people who are
that stupid.
defending pro-abortion people as innocent victims, no. Like if you've actually looked at what they said, they're not that at all. But then one thing to insert in here real quickly is
some people are sheltered.
Yeah. Well, one thing to insert in here real quickly is I think that we should probably do an episode on abortion as murder and everybody knows it, and just go through all the many instances of people being honest. So if you guys want to see that episode, just drop a comment in here and let me know.
Subscribe. Ring the bell. Man, you got you selling quad folds and it's like we're doing this for us. We're not. We need to grow so we can convince people of what's patently true.
Yeah. And on the note of all this kind of delusion about the women being victims, you know, me and you, and we're going to respond to this, to David French's article, probably in a later podcast. I'll certainly write an article responding to David French's article. But in David French's article, and he's a big figure in conservative politics and in the SBC and stuff. And he actually said in his article that women who have abortions are doing so out of well-meaning ignorance, quote unquote. Well-meaning ignorance is the word that David French used to describe the women who are having an abortion.
I have to wonder, like, when he's writing that, does he know he's lying, or is he just rabidly ignorant?
Yeah.
Like there's not. I mean, he's like an intellectual, and he's writing that sentence. Yeah. It's like, how do you pull that off? I think it must be that he knows that he has to hold that line. Because
for political reasons.
If he admits just 1 second that like some women, there's 3,000 abortions a day, might be doing this because of what the Bible says about people. They're sinful to the point of murder. I mean, like, what was the whole flood and the whole rainbow and what was the whole atonement for? Like, I mean, what, like we actually call it murder because it is murder, and we do it without any fear or thinking that we're being compassionless because we know a God who forgives murderers. But when little boy French, what's it?
David French,
Yeah. When French says this thing, it's like he's denying the ground for the gospel.
Yeah.
Like a woman who's murdered her child has, what did he say?
Does so out of quote unquote well-meaning ignorance was how he wrote it. Yeah. And he told a story about a girl he knew.
Does the blood of Christ
school.
need to forgive her for that? It's well-meaning ignorance.
Well-meaning. There's not even
there's not even guile in it.
Yeah.
Yep. really crazy stuff, and we'll have a full episode.
We'll do, yeah, we will do a whole episode.
French.
We mentioned that the ERLC,
Yeah.
we need to hold, while we're advertising, the ERLC signed on to this document, along with all these Romanist and pro-life and secular humanist groups, all these groups. The ERLC joined them in contradiction to their own denomination's resolution,
which called for precisely a bill like we see in Louisiana. Just last June, they passed a
people
resolution.
It's like the same people. The people who passed the resolution in the SBC are the same people who are in the lobby of the HB8 one.
Yep. Brian Gunter, who was leading the charge in Louisiana, is an SBC pastor who was at the SBC meeting where this SBC
Converted to
resolution,
abolitionism because of it.
right? And so then he goes back to Louisiana, gets passionate about abolishing abortion, gets his bill introduced, and the ERLC comes against his bill, the bill that he is supporting.
And then when
Really
people
crazy
point it
stuff.
out, they're just kind of uppity about it. Like, well, the people don't know what they're doing. These pastors don't know what they're doing. We'll do a whole episode on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So more on that coming. But continuing through the open letter here, they write, as national and state pro-life organizations representing tens of millions of pro-life men, women, and children across the country,
Call yourself pro-life. They're allowed to do that.
let us be clear. We state unequivocally that we do not support any measure seeking to criminalize or punish women, and we stand firmly opposed to include such penalties in legislation. So what's actually interesting is you don't have to include such penalties in legislation.
Yeah.
If to open up the possibility of penalty for the mother, all you have to do is say preborn children are equal under law.
Yeah.
In order to get to their position, you have to include in the bill the mother shall not be prosecuted under any circumstance. You actually have to write that into the bill.
Yeah.
But all we're saying is equal protection, and then we don't say anything about.
Yeah, we don't. That is weird. They do it.
Yeah.
They literally write into their bill immunity for mothers who murder their children.
Yeah.
We just say equality for all people under
Yep.
the law.
And that's what they object to.
I hate
Yeah.
it.
At its root, they are objecting to the idea that preborn children should be made fully equal under the law.
Yeah.
That is the objection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you pull back
Well-
everything we've said, please
Yeah.
get that. That's
Yeah.
what pro-lifers object to.
Yeah.
Equality for preborn humans.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of comes back to that, women are innocent victims type thing, because if that's the case, then really the main issue that you've got to address is just the mechanics about how they do it. Like, you've got to address whether or not she can practically get it done. And, pro-aborts have been saying forever, we're going to go back to the coat hanger. We're going to have to go back to the coat hanger if you do this. So it's like, they're saying we're going to find a way to do this regardless of whether or not you let us. And that's not an innocent person at all. But it's that view that would say, oh, we've just got to get rid of all of the machinery that's in place to allow a woman to do it conveniently. And if she can't do it conveniently, then she's not going to be able to do it at all.
Yeah.
Which is just absurd. Like, they show up at these places because they want to kill their baby. They buy the pills because they want to kill their baby. That's why they're doing it. It's not because, oh, this is so convenient. This abortion facility was set up and I have a baby that I don't want and I'm going to go down there and use their services because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't know what's going on. The place literally says you're with child and we can fix that for you. I mean, that they don't know what's going on. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, so they continue, and they actually get into some other arguments here outside of criminalization, but they write, if the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade, they will be honoring the unambiguous division of powers described in the Constitution, returning abortion policymaking back to our elected state and federal legislators.
It's just a really false, stupid statement right there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Constitution does outlaw abortion if you, as long as you're not like a dehumanizing person who says preborn children aren't people. As long as you reject that idea that preborn children are not people, you have to concede the Constitution abolishes abortion.
Yep.
But
And the pro-life
again,
movement-
they don't.
Yeah. It's
They
so
don't
crazy.
believe preborn children are people.
They're jumping the gun to submit to Dobbs.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. No, the Dobbs case says that states have the right to
Do whatever they want.
allow abortion or not allow abortion. That's what the Constitution has said. So we gotta obey Dobbs and let California and Maryland and New York, all these, like, what are you talking about, pro-life movement? You're not going to try to abolish abortion federally?
Yeah, all that stuff about the inalienable right to life, like the inalienable right to equal protection, you're not going to try to apply that to
Yeah.
children in the womb. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah,
It's
all
insane.
we really want is the constitutional right to choose whether or not we're going to have abortion within our states.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this last line that just says, we must ensure that the laws we advance to protect unborn children do not harm their mothers. they're not acting like their mothers. They're acting like somebody, like vipers who want to kill them. You know, God's standard would say their mothers deserve punishment. They deserve a lifetime in jail because they did not act like their mothers. They murdered them. So like even saying their mothers, like the mothers that love them, like it brings up the imagery of like your mom. My mom wasn't like this. My mom didn't try to kill me. And when you have a mother that tries to do that, that's a mother that belongs in jail, and a father who's involved. Like anyone involved with that deserves to be, to their level of culpability, punished for that.
Yeah. I think they're so concerned with making sure that the mothers are not harmed that they will keep abortion legal.
And that they will harm mothers in so doing by allowing mothers to murder their own children. Like their compassion, their caring for mothers is so twisted and perverse here. Well, let's be compassionate to mothers. Let's not harm them by allowing them to murder their own children with impunity. That's insanity. That is so perverse and twisted.
Proverbs, the compassion of the wicked is cruel.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking Ronnie Rogers preached a Sanctity of Life sermon the last year that I was there at that church, Trinity Baptist Church. Compassion of the wicked is cruel. This is one of these things where their compassion is damning.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that we can't reach people still and that the Holy Spirit can't reach people still, but this running around basically like telling women they're not sinners.
Yeah.
Because it's like if they're not sinning when they chose to like call up an abortionist, set up an appointment, and like go do it, they weren't sinning any time when they did anything.
Yeah.
Like I mean, anything you've ever been tempted to do, if there was any outside force like tempting you, you know, despicable. How long has this episode been going? Wow, we've been going quite a while on these.
About
things.
an hour and 9. Yeah.
So
moving on to Rick Edmonds.
Yeah, we this is Representative Rick Edmonds, and he is essentially, I think, if I've ever looked for like a perfect summation in a quote from a pro-life legislator that really does describe what I want to say. If you're pro-life, this is what you believe. Like, if you use that label, this is kind of what you're committing you to, because he basically kind of like lays it all out pretty perfectly here. Says, I'm 100% pro-life. Now, this is a guy who's explaining to the newspaper the day before the vote why he's got issue with HB 813.
Yep.
And professing Christian, conservative Republican. I'm 100% pro-life. There is no variation for me. But on the other hand, when it comes to the criminalization of women, that's not the position or the pathway of the pro-life movement in Louisiana or nationally. We've selected a path for decades, and we believe the women are victims just like the children.
Yeah. Just like them.
He nailed it. I mean, that's perfect. That is their position.
Yeah.
Like you say, like they don't usually say it that clearly. Women and babies are equally victims of abortion, you know, like some of the second time, but this is a description of how they've acted.
Yeah.
This does accurately, put out, who they are, what they believe. And is precisely why we've been saying you need to leave the pro-life movement.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that 60 million women who killed their babies are also dead. Strange.
Yeah. All those babies are running around being deceived into killing their mothers.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Equal victims. It's crazy.
But yeah, so I mean that's just and again, was Rick Edmonds on the committee?
He was not on the committee, no.
He wasn't the committee.
No.
He was just somebody who's just expected, you would expect would support this. And there's a wrinkle here, like with the liberal media. They always, it'll be like Louisiana is going to criminalize abortion, when really it's just like a pastor and some other pastors who've got good language to a legislator, and he's filed it, when the rest of the Louisiana House is basically dead set on this not passing.
Yeah. But that dead setness came after Louisiana Right to Life and Louisiana Family Forum came out against the bill. Until the pro-life groups came out in opposition to this bill,
Yeah.
Rick Edmonds would have been a guy who probably was going to support it.
Yeah. If there
With all
were
of his
no,
colleagues.
like, think about this, and this is dead serious. If there were no pro-life movement, abortion would be abolished in Louisiana.
I think we need to play that one again. Can you say that again? Just for emphasis, guys, listen closely.
Yeah. Pay attention. Everything we've talked about in this episode and shown, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, if there literally was no pro-life movement, there was no establishment, there was no money, there were no leaders, there was no system, there was no infrastructure. If there was no pro-life groups to weigh in the way they've done it, those Christian legislators in Louisiana would probably have abolished abortion.
Yep, and it would have happened in Oklahoma here.
Oh, yeah.
The opposition of
Oklahoma.
Oklahomans for Life, in
2016.
Texas, in Indiana, in Idaho, in Missouri, in North Carolina, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
All these states. But if
Yeah.
there's pro-life
There's no tinfoil
And
hat.
the other layer to all this too is that they say in their letter, the 70 pro-life groups, that this is something the states need to decide. Okay, so stay out of Oklahoma. Go away. We don't want you. You stupid national groups. Get out. We do not want you. Don't interfere. Let us do what we're supposed to be able to do, right? Legislate whether or not they can live or die. Let us do that. Get out of our state. We don't want you here. Don't come back.
Yeah, we don't want you anywhere, actually.
We don't want you anywhere, for sure.
Like people think, sometimes people are like, you guys are crazy, you're too harsh on the pro-life movement. It's almost like you think that the pro-life movement is causing abortion to remain legal. It's not that we think that, it's what they literally vote to do.
Yeah.
This is none of what we've said about the pro-life movement is in any way, shape, or form hyperbole or false. And it's not conjecture. It's not inference.
Yeah.
It's literally a reporting of the facts. And in one of the things, and one of y'all was pointing this out, it's like we always do this thing where abolition bills will be filed and they'll vote them down or they'll kill them and they'll pass a pro-life bill as a substitute. In this case, just so you know how this played out, the abolition language was filed, it passed committee, it went to the House. They didn't actually vote it down to kill it.
Yeah.
What they did is they literally said, we are going to make an amendment here, and we're going to take all of the abolitionist language out, and we are going to substitute pro-life language that doesn't criminalize abortion, doesn't establish equal justice, doesn't, make it a criminal act to murder your child. We will substitute that language, and then they passed that. They literally substitute pro-life language for abolition language, and people think we're all just really on the same side.
Yeah, well, they tried to pass it, but then Danny McCormick, the author of the original HB 813, said, nope, I'm not going to let you guys have this pro-life victory. I'm going to.
They had the votes
bill
to accept the amendment, so they changed HB 813 from an abolition bill to a pro-life bill.
Yeah.
And they were prepared to pass that, but they knew that when they did that, McCormick would pull the bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we should cut the episode here. I think we were going to actually go through Seabaugh and Ivy.
Yeah.
And maybe we should do that for another episode because I think we've wrapped this up pretty well.
Yeah.
We've been as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice. As
Well,
they say.
one more harsh thing to throw in there. I used to pray that the abortion facility in Columbus, Ohio, wherever I went, would face socioeconomic ruin. That was the
That
prayer.
was your prayer?
Yeah, that was one of the prayers. Some other things for the abortionists for sure. But now it's like I want the pro-life movement to face socioeconomic ruin. Like get rid of these stupid pro-life groups. Get rid of all of them. Let's just.
You got your imprecatory prayers heading in the right direction now?
It's more inclusive.
Man.
Yeah, way more inclusive.
I feel good. Like I finally made imprecatory prayers
Great again.
great again.
great again.
Your impreckying rubbed off.
Well, no, it's here. Let's sum up. Let's conclude with this. This seems like a bad thing, but what good has come from this? Like
Lots of good.
yeah. So when this happens, invariably what happens is good, solid Christians who love the Lord, love His Word, have the Holy Spirit dwelling within them, see this kind of nonsense, and it wakes them up. So just like we've seen in other states, like some people might say, like, man, what is the point? Like, golly, this is so futile. I feel bad for Danny McCormick and those guys and the people that, blood, sweat, and tears, they failed with just this chicanery and all this kind of stuff. Well, actually what's ended up happening is there have been tons of, like, I got back on Twitter because of this, because people were like, man, you got to get back on Twitter because like, there's like all these like pro-lifers going, wait, what? Like the ERLC signed what?
Yeah.
And so,
and that's when the growth in the abolitionist movement happens. Like here in Oklahoma, there's been probably a couple different events like the Dan Fisher campaign and other things that have grown the movement.
Yeah.
But probably the biggest single event that grew the movement was the Baptist General Convention of Oklahoma writing a letter to every SBC church in the
we
state.
don't support Senate Bill 13.
Saying oppose SB 13. And you have all these pastors who have been kind of hearing abolitionists a little bit, but not quite getting on board.
Probably think we're a little crazy.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden they see it and it clicks. Holy smokes, those abolitionists were right. The pro-life groups, my denomination, who I trusted to do these things, is now opposing the bill to abolish abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when you see all these pastors and churches getting on board here in Oklahoma. And so the same thing is going to happen in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Like and I know that it has been.
And this is going to have a national effect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And just with your study of history, Russ, you kind of knew all this was coming, and this was going to be a lot of the...
Oh, I know everything that's going to happen in the future.
Well, you knew that it was going to be the pro-life organizations that were opposing us. You knew all that stuff already, but it is interesting you couldn't have planned it better as far as like the providence of God goes. You get us saying they're this, they do this. These are the people who don't want abortion to be abolished. And then you get them saying, yep, we don't want abortion to be abolished. We want to leave it impunity to the main people who want to do it. I put up on Twitter the other day, I think I said, I thought it was pretty funny. I think no one else thought it was very funny. I said, stealing should be illegal for everybody except for those who want to.
Except for the people.
Except for the people who
thou
want
shalt
to.
not steal, but if you do,
Yeah.
you're a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it is. I mean, it is incredible to see the providence of God here, where the pro-life movement, like doing evil, is just being used for God's good, for His purposes. Like they're publicly showing this evil, and now it's probably going to be the main debate of the SBC this year.
Yeah.
It already is.
It should be.
You know, it is the main stage at the moment between the two main candidates for president of the SBC, and I hope that the messengers see very clearly that these people who don't want to criminalize abortion have no solution for a Holocaust. They've got no solution for self-managed abortion.
Yeah.
It is going to continue, and they have no sense of justice. Like beyond that, it's not just about saving as many babies as possible. It's where is the justice for the baby that is flushed down the toilet in a place that should have been a welcoming home to him.
And it turns out that abolitionists seem to care about that, and then pro-lifers don't.
Yeah.
And I think normal people, and there's a kind of a weird, there's a lot of debate about whether to call yourself pro-life or abolitionist and all that kind of stuff we're always weighing in on. But we've never said that there aren't people out there that are calling themselves pro-life, that are Christians, that believe the word of God, and would be abolitionists if they knew about it.
And this is the moment.
And this is the moment where you know about it.
Yeah.
We don't need those people going, well, wait, that's not what it means to be pro-life, and try to like out pro-life the pro-lifers. We need them to understand the thing that they've been giving their money to, and their time and their energies and their selves. They've been calling themselves. They've been attaching themselves to this thing, is radically opposed to the justice of God.
Yeah.
And radically undermining the gospel of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And so all of this is going to bear fruit in bringing people to an awareness of what the pro-life movement is, and exposing their unfruitful deeds of darkness, and frankly their arrogance. Like they think, like, it's so funny to watch on Twitter, like when Denny Burke or something like that says, this is not the pro-life position, it's never been the pro-life position, and people who probably were formerly like anti-abolitionists going, it's not. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's happening. And so we are going to build on this. And, lo and behold, right here at the moment, whenever it looks like the Supreme Court's going to rule that states have the right to murder babies or not murder babies, and the pro-lifers are all getting excited about that culmination of their path for decades.
Yep.
Right here at the moment, whenever they're regaining the right from their gods to regulate abortion, they're coming into this new game saying, we better not criminalize it.
Yeah.
Yep.
If this isn't clear.
And that is going to be the battle on it. Now, assuming, of course, Roe has not been overturned yet, like Roe, like the justices could change their vote and still uphold Roe. But even if it does get overturned, the battle now is, should mothers be allowed to murder the children with impunity?
Yeah.
Like that is going to be the debate between the abolitionist movement and the pro-life groups who are opposing all of our bills.
Yeah.
The debate is, should mothers be allowed to murder their children with impunity? The pro-life groups unanimously, right? All these pro-life groups say yes.
And the abolitionists say no.
Yeah.
Very simple. And that's where the debate is.
Yeah. And real quickly, before we wrap up here, we have started a new Free the States group on Facebook. And if you are interested in getting connected with abolitionists in your area and asking questions there, having more input on the stuff that Free the States puts out, getting our attention for articles or things that need coverage, jump into that group. It's I'm really excited about it. We got a bunch of new faces in there, abolitionists that I did not know were in the movement or anything like that, and it's been really great. So get in that group. Go type in Free the States, the group, Free the States, the group into Facebook, and it'll pop up. I can also throw a link to that into the description of this video, but make sure you go there, answer the questions, jump in the group.
Yeah. So, yeah, great episode.
Yeah.
We are going to try to get this up tonight. And hopefully we will be doing another episode shortly where we look at what were the arguments made by the legislators in Louisiana to justify what they did.
Yeah, this episode was about the pro-life groups in Louisiana and nationwide, but lest we let Alan Seabaugh and Representative Ivey off the hook, these guys lied. They said that abortifacient drugs are not abortifacient drugs. The pro-life politicians in Louisiana who formerly supported the bill exposed themselves.
Life begins at implantation.
Right. Expose themselves in awful ways. And so we're going to be exposing them as well in the coming days. But our episode coming up on Thursday probably is going to be about the conversations that we've talked about that have begun in SBC circles, because one of the primary issues now for the Southern Baptist Convention is abolition versus incrementalism, which is a very good thing. That debate is going on within the SBC, and the SBC elites are not happy about the Louisiana bill, about the resolution that was passed last year, and they are really going full bore against the abolitionist movement right now. Denny Burke, David French, all those guys.
It's like they want to split the Southern Baptist Convention over the peculiar institution of abortion.
That's what they're trying to do.
Whoa. History.
One other quick pitch here, real quick. Nice anecdote for you. Nation Devers, he's a guy who goes to our church. He's the son of Dusty Devers, our pastor. Was walking around at Six Flags with a Free the State shirt on and had abolition related stuff. And he said he had about 3 conversations with people that were coming up to him that were pro-lifers. And they were really interested in abolition, and he gave them a good pitch for it. And that's a good way to be talking to people about abolition and getting them to switch from being pro-life to abolition. So go to the Free the State store. I'm just full of pitches today.
I know. This is like, there's a lot of good ideology in this episode. I'm like, man, people need to be prepared to tune in like every day this week. We're going to have an episode almost.
But this isn't about pitching the store. This is about being a walking advertisement for abolition. Go around, talk to people about abolition, be bold.
And
that's what you need in a generation of very spineless people to be bold and walk around with.
So that is store.freethestates.org.
Yeah, it's right here.
Is it going to be right there?
It's not going to be right there. Do not do that.
It's not going to be there.
Don't tell me that I got to post this episode today and then
post it tonight, but you need it. Okay, it's not right there. Store.freethestates.org. But no, like some people think it's getting so hot, so crazy out there. The pro-aborts are going mad and they're like breaking stuff and shouting their abortions and eating cake with abortion love on it. They're being weird. I don't want to get out there and do the opposite. No. Right now is when you're supposed to be wearing shirts that say abortion is murder and everybody knows it. Maybe I'll make that shirt. We'll try to make that shirt and other shirts. But we aren't just doing this, to raise money. That'd be stupid. It's not very effective. And as Sam said,
we'd make popular shirts if we were. We make shirts that people would be comfortable wearing.
Love them both because we'd have 70 organizations and tens of millions of people ready to stand up to say they're equally.
Our shirts aren't easy to wear, though they're comfortable.
They're not. They're comfortable. They're not easy to wear in the sense of you will get into conversations with some people, and even more than that, you will have lots of them seeing it and them shrinking back and being like, I can't really That's like the left does it the devil's people do it, whatever you want to go. The world does it.
Yeah.
You need to be as bright with your light as they are with their darkness. So please, go to the store. We'll make sure that everything's stocked up there and there's new stuff coming.
Which leads into, if you are a monthly member of Free the States, you get a 15% discount in the store, and you also get entered to win a drawing for a drawing. So become a monthly subscriber or a monthly donor. There's no amount is too little or anything like that. You can give whatever amount that you're able. And you will get entered to win a drawing, and you also get a 15% discount.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Is there anything else we need to pitch?
I don't think so.
The AC
this,
in my car is out.
Get this abortion is murder, and everybody knows it pamphlet and pass it out to people.
Yeah,
that's very relevant to what we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
And
it'd be great if we had to print another 50,000 of those before the end of the week. Oh wait, we are printing.
Yep.
Never mind. We're printing 50,000 more of those right now as we speak. Sorry.
Yeah.
So.
Alrighty, and I think that concludes our discussion, part 1 of our discussion of the Louisiana bill. We're going to have a part 2 here. Might not be on Thursday, but might be the Thursday after that, just discussing what the actual legislators did.
Yeah.
So join us on Thursday as well to have, I think we'll probably be talking about the SBC. We're not entirely sure yet, but join us on Thursday at 6 o'clock, and then, make sure to tune in. This has been another episode of the Liberator podcast, where we're committed to being as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice. We'll see you next week.